Hi everyone, I'm Yann Chilvers, co-founder of Covalo, and I will be your host today for this maiden episode of the Faces of the Beauty Industry, Covalo's intimate interview series, putting the spotlight on unique characters behind the industry. We have the pleasure today to have Richard Illi, the CEO and owner of Essencia, a leader in natural fragrances. Richard, thank you for being here today with us. Would you mind telling us in a few words what Essencia is all about?
Thank you, Yann, for inviting me for this series. With pleasure. So Essencia is a Swiss company based in Zurich. We are specialized in 70 years of naturals, so essential oils, perfumes. And since 20 years, we specialize ourselves in preparing natural fragrances.
Very nice. And one thing that always fascinates me is to understand what brought people to be who they are today. Looking back, what made you study chemical engineering in the first place?
Well, I think I was interested always in business and in chemistry. But I think my interest of chemistry comes more from the passion that I have for food and wine. Mm-hmm. That started very early because I come from a wine growing family. And basically, when it was about to choose between business studies or chemicals or science, I reckon that business you can always catch up and learn later. It's also a lot of learning by doing. Mm-hmm. But for science, it's a bit more difficult. So that's why I decided to go to study chemistry in Zurich and Lausanne.
And actually, you had this reflection again a couple of years later when you had to choose between academia and a career in sales. What made you at that point in time choose the sales route?
Well, I think it's more my view at the time. When I finished my studies, I saw that I had a possibility to do a PhD, but then the colleagues of mine who were doing the PhD, I saw were more relaxed, laid back. They wanted to have some good time studying. And also I saw that business, again, was very interesting since the beginning for me. So going into sales was for me the best way to quickly enter the real life, as I would say. So that's why I decided to go in the directions of joining a company right after the studies. Mm-hmm. But I started in quality, in fact, and not in sales. I had to wait 4 years until I could join really the business. And
mm-hmm. Yeah. And you also actually studied in Asia, where you spent almost a decade. What was the appeal of Asia to you?
I think we're talking about years for many of you. You were not born or just born, so we're talking about 28. When, in fact, when I started my career at that time at the company I was working for, it was clear that I wanted to move to sales and I wanted to move abroad. And when I asked them to move abroad, I said, look, I would love to go to a place that I have no idea about. Mm-hmm. Not a single idea about the culture, the people, the language, and so on. So I didn't want to go to stay in Europe or to go to the US. I really wanted to say, okay, I'm young, I'm ready to go a long path. And that's why Asia was honestly was proposed by the company. In fact, it was China at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And then, that's where we went. But I wouldn't say that I chose that. I think sometimes it's part also as an entrepreneur, like in all of your career, I think you try to, you follow your instinct. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to do something new, to have some challenges, and it looks like it was exactly what was expected me there in Asia, and that has been true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we will talk about this in a few minutes also of that entrepreneurial drive and that this constant quest for challenges. But I would just like to take a moment also to talk about your experience in supply chain. You spent more than 2 decades in supply chain. And as we all know, the industry really has changed a lot over the last couple of years. How did you see the overall industry, especially on the supply chain side, evolve throughout your career?
Well, I think what happened is that in the chemical industries, especially in the fragrance flavor industry, and we deliver to the consumer goods, to the food industry. Since the year 2000, I think there's been a huge pressure on cost, which has led companies to follow full speed on the path of globalization. So when I started my career, there was a lot of production in Europe still of chemicals. A lot of things moved to Asia, which I was also partially responsible for in my previous company. And then we have seen in the recent years that with COVID, but prior to that, there's been other kind of supply crisis in the chemical industry, that people are starting to rethink about more regional, if not local. So that's one of the big evolution. We went from local, regional to global, and then now we are kind of coming back. The other part is, of course, the incredible drive that the chemical industry overall has put not only in the safety of the product, but also in trying to be always more respectful of the environment. So the sustainable drive has started, in fact, 20, 30 years ago, but really now it's being known, it's being organized much better. And it's the driving force behind everything we do in green chemistry and in all of that. But I think it started already earlier. Our concern for the environment in the chemical industry, especially in our industry, was really, I think, more or less present all my career, so my 30 years of experience. Yeah. So I think this is the driving force is having safe, sustainable chemicals, and that's the big challenge of the chemical industry overall.
Yeah, as you know, that's a topic that is very dear to our heart. So we could definitely fall into the rabbit hole and talk for ages about this. Also, always enjoy a lot our conversation. But for today, also would like to really focus on what drove you personally throughout your career steps. You spent more than 12 years at Firmenich. What made you, in a certain way, like give up on a successful career track at Firmenich to take over Essencia in this totally new challenge?
So in fact, I spent nearly 20 years at Firmenich, 12 years in Asia, and I had different roles in China, in the region, in Asia, and then globally as well. I was in charge of the supply chain at the end. Now, what made me change, I think it's again what we said at the beginning, and you say we'll come back on that, is the need of, I think, new challenges. I had a chance during my stay at Firmenich to do an executive MBA at a school called IMD in Lausanne, which prepared me to take more responsibilities, which happened at Firmenich, but also it makes you focus on yourself, what really drives you. And I think that after a while you want to see something new. So I have 18 fantastic years at Firmenich. I was really lucky. Had a chance to experience a lot, to discover, to work with a lot of great people. But after a while, you say, okay, I know the company. I even wanted to leave the fragrance and flavor business. I wanted to go back to what a typical chemical engineer or a chemist in Switzerland is doing, which is pharmaceutical product. So that was been my idea. There was the need also to come back to Europe. Or not the need, but the will from the family. So my wife, my two daughters at that time, we were ready to say we want to go to Switzerland because, it so happened that our daughters, the first 10 years of their life, they only knew Switzerland for holiday, but they had a whole family here and they never lived here. So that was, we were ready also to come back. All of this, and then Essencia came by chance through a friend of a friend. So I have this guy I know is acquiring companies, and that's how at that time I met my partner, and we decided after quite quickly, in fact, which is quite funny when you see in big corporation, you do a lot of studies on merger and acquisition, and here, we decided to acquire this company together privately, and we since then it has been I put everything I have, financially as well as my energy over the last 12 years in this company, and it has been a very nice bumpy road sometimes, but Yeah, it's rewarding. So I can't say that absolutely was driven. You know, some people I know, they say, hey, now I've done 20 years in corporate life. I want to go and lead a small business or create my own company. So I wasn't that clear. I would have been, I think, pretty happy in working for other people, leading a P&L. But I had the chance, and I think that's when you need to sometimes take your chances. One thing on that point, I think I told you that I never forget that I was given a big chance in China. I had the chance to build a project from scratch, a new corporate center with production offices, R&D labs, and everything in Shanghai. It was a major project for Feminist Group at that time. Mm-hmm. I remember when I thanked my big boss when we came for the inauguration, I said, "Wow, thanks for giving me this chance," and so on. So many people would have loved to have that. He said, yes, but it's always the same. There are a lot of people who wants to do things, and it's like you're at the station and there are trains passing and stopping. And some people, they always say, I should, or it would be nice to be in this train, but they never jump in. And sometimes you just have to jump in and do it. And I think for me, if you want to become an entrepreneur, you cannot, you have to, again, trust your guts, and you think that's the right thing for you today, go for it, and then, you will see.
Yeah, I can totally relate to this. I think like entrepreneurship really has to feel right. And there is never really a good timing. The timing is really when you have that gut feeling that tells you, okay, now is the time to go. And sometimes that's a decision you take very quickly that drives you for many, many years. So now you roughly spend half of your career in a large corporate, half of your career in a smaller company that you are owning. What, in your view, is setting those two worlds apart?
Well, I think there's many aspects, but in a large company, I think you can develop yourself nicely. You have a lot of opportunities. Being to move geographically, to meet other cultures, other people. Here we both, you're more or less based in Switzerland, traveling a lot. I'm based in Switzerland now, but Switzerland is a very rich cultural, multicultural country. We have a lot of people, but still, I think it's when you go and travel and meet within your company colleagues from other places around the world, that's where we really start to feel, what it is, and then to live abroad. You also have a lot of things, as I said, about further developments, programs to develop yourself, to learn. So I think it's very interesting. On the other side, you often come with big numbers, so you have big responsibilities when you look at the numbers. Now, on the other side, you have a lot of trade-off to do, because you have other people all over you, all around you, with you, against you, and you need to be able to navigate that. So I think that's one part. You also, of course, we always say our team and so on, but each of us, we have to do something. It's true. We contribute to the success of a company. It's true in a big or in small company, but obviously in a small company, the smaller, the more direct your impact is. And I think that's probably one of the major difference. It also means that typically I was more like all my career, I was more or less in management. I had teams to lead and so on. So there was a lot of things that I was not doing myself. Now, of course, I'm not creating the perfume and I'm not mixing them at Essencia. We're also a team, but we're only 20 people. So there's a lot of things that I've started to do again myself. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs, you go on the Excel spreadsheet, you plan your trips yourself, and all of the things that at a certain level in certain companies you don't do, which is nice because, you really, as I said, you really have everything in your own hands. On the other side, sometimes it could be frustrating because what you don't have in small company is the power to move fast and to move widely. And that's maybe one thing I miss with my company is how do I make the challenge, how do I make it Essencia known around the world? If I were doing the same thing in terms of products with my previous company, we would this business unit would be probably 100 times the size that what I have in my company. So you have also limitation, but you have limitation in both at different level, I would say.
As you know, we also started the project within Clarion, also moved from a fairly large team to then being only 2-3 at the beginning and having to rebuild the company. And it was like an incredible challenge where you learn to become a generalist, doing everything yourself from marketing, payroll, finance. And you, at least at the beginning, you are your biggest limitation in some ways, because you need to do it all yourself and you don't have that firepower of a large corporate. But it's definitely something that, a situation in which you learn a lot. And that brings me to my next question. As you mentioned, entrepreneurship can be like a pretty bumpy road. There are some ups and downs. It's also an extremely rewarding path. But what made you, keep going and power through hard times throughout the last decade and plus?
Well, I think it's one of the things, and I talked a lot with some of my friends, same situation. I think whenever you facing the market, whenever you face the clients, the developers, in our case, the marketers, and you win something, it's the push of energy you need for them to keep going for the next bond and so on. So I think definitely when you have a product or whatever service that it's starting to be appreciated by your clients, it gives you every time a lot of energy, and that's one of the things. The other part is the other thing that I think it's you have to believe. Of course, when you start something, you believe in yourself, you believe in your product, right, or your service, and you want somehow to prove that you were right to do it. So there's also this part, to keep going, because you're not going to quit after the first bump and after the first down. And I think that's very important, and that's why I said you need to find yourself where you get your energy to be able to go over these downs, to go up again. And I think the next part, and you have explained us certainly at Covalo, because I follow you from not from the beginning, but from a couple of years now. As you said, you started a couple of people. Now I think you're about 15 times more than what the number you mentioned. All the new colleagues that you get are sources of energies and new impulse. And I think that's very nice to have that. I mean, we have experienced that at Essencia over the last 3 years, I would say. We have totally changed the age pyramid as well. So yes, there are challenges on one side because you have different group of people who have to cohabit, but on the other side, it's a lot of new impact, new impulse, new ideas that you implement, and that gives you a lot of ideas. So I think as long as you can nurture this environment, as long as you have customers who are happy, of course you want more, of course you're not happy about certain situation, economical, whatever, but you keep fighting and you keep pushing in the right direction.
Yeah, and the human side of the journey is definitely something unique. I think you start with a vision and ideas, sometimes also, like we were at the beginning, not too many people. And with every single person you add to the team, you try to also make it their own, and the culture and everything is evolving. During our last lunch, you were telling me about how also proud you were of, like the impact Essencia had at its scale on families and the people working in the company. What is also, like that thing that makes you the most proud of Essencia and your journey so far?
But in my case, I didn't start in a business. We took over a business that was about 60 years old at that time, and it was a dying business. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the challenges, to say, okay, we need first to do a turnaround. And usually turnarounds are done in 18 months, 2 years max. Mm-hmm. Well, I have to say the turnaround are still a bit longer for many reasons, but the turnaround is not like you say, okay, one day you can say, okay, it's done, but it's never finished. It's always an evolution. Mm-hmm. So if I look back, it has been now 12 years. I'm quite happy we are still here, so we survive. Mm-hmm. We develop a new offering, we develop a new Essencia, let's say. And all these years, we had 15, 20 people on the payroll, so it's a lot. I mean, it's nothing on one side, but still it's a lot of families that are there. And that's one thing. The other thing is that I think it's really we have been able to transform our strategy in something really concrete. We have these natural perfumes. We are taking the leadership there. Now, of course, I would have loved that it went faster and that we were bigger today. But that's the way it is, and I think I'm very proud of having done that with the team. So it's really as an entrepreneur, your first responsibility is to keep the jobs for your employees and to develop. And I think, of course, you have other towards shareholders and different stakeholders. You have all the responsibilities, but I think we are one team and we are responsible for the team. And that's something that I think every entrepreneur, every person who offers job to others should be proud of.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, for the people who don't know Essencia, next year will be the 75th birthday. I think you really did an amazing job with the new brand identity, also the different families. So I really invite everyone to go and have a look. We'll also share the details with the post. So you mentioned at the beginning that we have been in contact for a while. You were actually one of our very first customers, and you always really stressed on the importance for you to invest in new generation and that role as a mentor. You also said like education is something very dear to you. What do you enjoy the most in that mentor role?
Well, I think the fact is when you see people develop their skills and growing and enjoying even more their job, and then you basically their leader or their boss, whatever you want to call yourself, or your mentor, they're the mentor. It's quite. I mean, it's the best reward you can have. I mean, I love talking, I love sharing with people. So I think probably it's because for me, it's I would say it's even more rewarding than having a nice sales. Of course, two are there, but one is also more long-lasting. I think big business could be a kind of never-ending story. But when and I can give you examples. I had a chance when I went in China. I had a lot of young people. I mean, I was also quite young. I went there at 28. I was general manager of a joint venture and so on. But and I had a lot of guys who were joining me just after their studies, and they all developed. I think five or six of the team of 8 guys. We were in the management at that time, or they were starting in their management role with me, and we can, thanks to Firmenich, I could help them quite a bit. And then after that, I've seen them develop further in their career. At the beginning, I was really for 10 years. I was with them, and then there's been other people, and these people. When they contact you now, it's fantastic. We have LinkedIn, we have all this data, but we stay in touch. And people, of course, it's like every day tell you, it's nice, I follow it, but when you don't ask anything to anyone and people come back to you, that's the biggest reward. And in fact, mentoring is really the satisfaction of helping someone solving a problem, going further, developing himself, herself. And this is why I love that, but I will do hopefully more of that again in the third phase of my career. But and that's maybe something which is more difficult to get in a smaller company, because you have maybe less opportunities to move people around, to make them learn new skills and develop themselves. So coming back to one of your previous questions, I think that could be a little bit the frustrating part, but still.
I mean, like you can also be a great mentor with some of the partners like us, or some of your customers also that want to launch new products. I think that's really something that can drive you. Probably a question that we often talk about what brought people to become a mentor, but did you have yourself a mentor throughout your career that really helped you in some of the important steps within your life?
Yeah, I think I was lucky enough to. I started my career when the business was still very traditional. You had people going up, staying 30 years in the same company, getting up the ladder, step by step, and the people who typically send me to China. I was 28 after only 4 or 5 years experience in the industrial world. I think they must have been crazy because it was a lot of risk. Maybe they said, okay, it's fine. If he fails, we get the next one. But anyway, I had a chance to have people who gave me the chances, who followed me, who I have a couple of examples of people who really gave me a hand when I was falling big time and helped me. And I think this is, I hope it's still happening in companies. I know that further down, when you start to be about the 40s and you start to fight for the big roles, 40s, 50s, then it becomes more difficult because unfortunately this career build within companies, this exists less and less. You never know what the boss will be doing next year in 6 months. So everything you try to develop might be broken very quickly. And I think that's something that is a little bit that I realize looking at it again, a lot of my friends, colleagues, contacts. It's something that is missing in the professional world today. To be able to go to someone, also, a mentor is just someone who can listen to you, and you're not afraid that this person will use some of the information that you share or some of the problem you picked and you try to get together to a solution. They will not use that against you 6 months later or 2 months later. And I think that's what is necessary in companies again. And that's why, as I told you, in a third part of my career, I want to dedicate myself and make myself available for that. But first, I need to learn also what it means to be mentoring, because it's one thing to do it from your heart and your guts and your experience, and another thing when you want to really do it, you need to be like in everything, you need to get certain skills and competency. So, but that's for the future. That's going to be when you do what happened 10 years after you retire, for the next series in 20 years. So yeah.
Yeah, we actually started ourselves like a coaching journey quite recently with an external coach. Because a lot of the time you are providing feedback to your team, but there are also a lot of things that you need to learn yourself. And although we try to foster really a 360 culture, getting bottom-up feedback, and to have someone with experience that can guide you through that journey and also, make you aware of some of your blind spots. And so far, it's been really very insightful. And I think, like, if we look in the US, it's something quite common. In Europe, it's usually not so common. Actually, that coach is quite experienced, and said that it was quite rare for people, and sometimes also a bit younger, to make that step. And yeah, I think that's something I can only invite people to explore. We are slowly running out of time, so probably a last question. What would be your advice for any young person or not so young who would be interested in launching their own business?
Well, first, I like your correction, because I think it's not a question of age.
Yeah.
It's a question of, again, if you have an idea or you have an opportunity that comes to you, look at it. If you really feel it's the right thing for you, go and jump. It won't bite you, and you probably won't die from that. Maybe you don't make as much money as what you were hoping at the beginning. Maybe you'll be working a bit more than what you were thinking you would. But I think it's definitely worth the try. And if you see after a couple of years it doesn't work, you can always stop and do something else. But in terms of the advice, I think one of the advice that people have to be ready, we talked about it, is not only highs. So don't look at that. I think most of the people are clever enough to see that whatever we see, that shines, and companies that are going like this, and people are, that's nice. It happens. It's only a very tiny part of the market, basically, of the companies. Most of the companies, it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of, as you mentioned, and ups and downs, bumps, and so on. So it's fine. You have to accept that. You have to also accept that it doesn't succeed as well as or as quickly as what you thought. You have to be ready to a lot of feedback, because the smaller you are, the more people will come and give you direct feedback, or yourself, you will get that. And I think it's this patience that you need to have. That you really need to go for the long term. So if you think, you can do something for a while, but then after that, build the organization to keep it going. That's important. But yourself, you need to be patient, and you can be very pushy with the results and everything. But I think the reality is often it takes twice, if not more, than what you thought it would take to achieve your objective. But if you're ready to accept that, by no means it's a great journey. So do it, and it's a great feeling. And yeah, I can only encourage people to jump and do it.
Yeah, very, very true. I mean, like really embracing the journey is like one of the key steps. I think need probably a certain dose of resilience and keeping that Northern Star. But if you don't get joy in like those small success along the way and just focus on some big milestone, I mean, that makes things very, very tough.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very true. I mean, as I said, every reward you take it as this, and then you move ahead, and it's the energy that keeps you going for the rest. Yeah.
Richard, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. As one of our early customers, but also one of the most passionate person I know in the industry, I could not have hoped for a better guest for that very first interview. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yann. I'm very happy to be part of this new set of recordings you're making, offering on entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. And I look forward to listen to the next guest on your talk. And thanks again to Covalo and to you. And I think certainly you need to get someone also to interview you, because you also have a lot of passion for what you're doing, and probably being seen also by all your clients. Mm-hmm. And your success is also showing that there's also companies that are going faster than others.
Thank you very much. And nice segue also for all the people that join us today. Thank you for taking the time. And if anybody comes to your mind that you feel we should be interviewing, don't hesitate to tag them in comment or to share the details at social@covalo.com. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day and goodbye.